New York, a city of dreams and invisible walls, where dazzling neon lights conceal shadowy corners. In the heart of this bustling metropolis, Aisha Carter, a 24-year-old Black American woman, walks through the vibrant streets of Harlem, where jazz music mingles with honking horns and familiar greetings. She lives in a tiny apartment with just enough space for a single bed, an old sketch table, and a few unfinished paintings. Every line on Aisha's face, her deep brown eyes, her naturally curly hair tied back, radiates resilience. Still, her gaze always flickers of yearning, as if peering into a world larger than she possesses. Aisha works as a cleaning staff member at Sterling Tower, a dazzling skyscraper in the heart of Manhattan that houses some of the world's largest corporations. Her shift starts at 6 p.m., once the offices have emptied, and stretches past midnight. She sweeps floors, empties trash bins, and polishes mahogany desks she knows she'll never sit behind. As lights from the high-rises reflect off the glass windows each night, Aisha secretly pulls a small notebook from her uniform pocket. She sketches out painting ideas, the vibrant Harlem streets, faces she sees on the subway, or sometimes just abstract shapes that echo her inner world. The dream of becoming an artist burns inside her, but a harsh reality suppresses it. Her mother died when she was just 10, leaving her in the foster care system. With no family and no inheritance, Aisha learned to fend for herself early, but her self-respect wouldn't let her give up hope. Aisha's life is a chain of long days, starting at dawn with a part-time job at a coffee shop, then free online art classes, and ending with the night shift at Sterling Tower. She once heard cruel words from her supervisor, Mrs. Linda, who caught her drawing during a break. "Can you be an artist? People like us only do manual labor, Aisha. Stop dreaming nonsense." Those words cut like a blade, but Aisha refused to let them extinguish the fire inside. She kept a diary where she wrote, "One day, my paintings will hang in a gallery. No one can take my dream away, not even me." Dozens of floors above Aisha, in the luxurious penthouse atop Sterling Tower, Nathan Sterling, a 36-year-old white American man, runs Sterling Enterprises, a financial empire left to him by his father. With dark brown hair, piercing blue eyes, and a towering frame, Nathan embodies success. A powerful CEO who could sway the stock market with a single decision. But behind the confident exterior lies a deep loneliness. His father died when Nathan was 25, leaving behind a company on the brink of collapse. Nathan spent the next decade rebuilding Sterling Enterprises into a global conglomerate, but the cost was estrangement from family, friends, and himself. Each morning, Nathan wakes at 5 a.m. He runs on the treadmill in his private gym, reads market reports, and steps into a packed schedule. He's called the Wolf of Wall Street, a nickname he neither likes nor rejects. Employees respect him, partners fear him, but no one truly knows him. Nathan once composed music back in college, dreaming of becoming a songwriter, but that dream was buried under the weight of family pressure and responsibility. His mother, Elizabeth Sterling, still calls regularly, reminding him to protect the family name, though Nathan rarely answers. Their relationship fractured the day he refused to sell the company according to her wishes after his father's death. Nathan is never short of women. They're drawn to his wealth, power, and allure. But his relationships are always brief, ending with expensive gifts and a silent understanding that no one could ever touch his heart. "Love is a luxury I can't afford," he once told his assistant, James, in a rare moment of vulnerability. Nathan's penthouse, complete with marble floors and million-dollar paintings, still feels empty, a stark reminder that he built an empire with no one to share. Although living in the same city, Aisha and Nathan belong to two entirely different worlds. Aisha represents the silent labor force that Manhattan depends on but rarely acknowledges. Nathan symbolizes power and privilege, yet he is trapped within his kingdom. They are unaware of each other's existence, yet both carry invisible scars. Aisha from a childhood of deprivation, Nathan from the burden of perfection. Both wear masks. Aisha hides her dreams behind practicality, and Nathan conceals his loneliness with cold detachment. Their contrast is not just one of class or race, but of worldview. Aisha finds beauty in small things, a street vendor's smile, and the sunset over the Hudson River. Nathan sees only numbers, deals, and targets to conquer. But deep down, they both yearn for something more real, more profound than what life has given them. Aisha dreams of a future where she can live her passion. Nathan, though he won't admit it, longs for someone who sees the man beneath the crown. With all its chaos and wonder, New York is a city where destinies intersect unexpectedly. A storm is coming, one that will shake not only the town, but the lives of Aisha and Nathan. Beneath the shadows of skyscrapers, under the flickering light of an approaching thunderstorm, two strangers are about to embark on a journey that will change them forever. But can they overcome the invisible walls of class, race, and their fears? Only time and the heart can answer that. Rain poured over New York as if the sky wanted to drown the city. The streets of Manhattan turned into rivers, water rising to the ankles, sweeping along trash and broken umbrellas. Aisha Carter stood in a shadowed corner of the Sterling Tower lobby, her janitor uniform soaked and clinging to her body. She had just finished an extra shift, filling in for a coworker whose child had fallen ill. The additional pay would help her cover next month's electric bill. But now, staring out at the white curtain of rain, she wondered how she would get home. She had called Keisha, her best friend who worked as a nurse in Harlem, hoping to crash at her place if the subway shut down. But Keisha was on the night shift at the hospital, and her apartment was over an hour's walk away in normal conditions. Aisha checked the old umbrella she had borrowed from the security office. Something left in the lost and found bin, but it looked like it would fall apart at the first gust of wind. "Just need to get to the station," she murmured, gripping the strap of her bag. But as she pushed the glass door open, a blast of cold wind slapped her in the face, making her step back. Meanwhile, Nathan Sterling, on the 40th floor of Sterling Tower, was finishing a call with a partner in London. He stood by his office window, gazing down at a city swallowed by rain and streaked with lightning. His white shirt remained crisp, but his eyes revealed the fatigue of a long day filled with meetings and negotiations. James's assistant had left hours ago, leaving Nathan alone in the silent space, the only sound being rain hammering against the glass. He decided to head home, not wanting to make his chauffeur drive through this weather. He grabbed the keys to his black sedan and stepped into his private elevator. Downstairs, Aisha took a deep breath, opened the umbrella, and dashed into the storm. The umbrella lasted only a few seconds before the wind turned it inside out, its metal ribs snapping with a harsh crack. She cursed under her breath, rain soaking through her thin coat, making her shiver. The 6 blocks to the train station now seemed like an impossible journey. She stopped under an awning, trying to shield herself, but the water had already seeped into her shoes, soaking her socks. Headlights flared, and a luxury car splashed through a large puddle, sending a cold wave of water over Aisha. She screamed, now completely drenched, her hair plastered to her face. The car screeched to a stop, its red brake lights glowing in the dark. The driver's side window rolled down, and a deep voice called out, "I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" Aisha, wiping water from her face, was about to snap back with a sharp remark, but lightning illuminated the man's face. His blue eyes were filled with concern, not the hollow pity she was used to. The unexpected sincerity made her pause. "I'm fine," she replied, voice trembling from the cold. "Just a bit wetter than I planned. Water dripped from her hair, blurring her vision. "Let me give you a ride," he said, unlocking the door. It's not safe to walk in this weather. Every lesson from her childhood echoed in her mind. Don't get into a stranger's car. She'd seen too many girls from her neighborhood get hurt by trusting the wrong person. But another strong gust nearly knocked her off balance, and she realized she had few options. She looked closely at the man. Expensive suit, gleaming watch, but his eyes didn't seem threatening. Maybe it's just a wealthy man trying to make amends. "Thank you," she said, hurrying around the car and climbing into the passenger seat. Inside, the scent of leather and subtle cologne wrapped around her. The seat was warm, but Aisha felt awkward as water from her clothes dripped onto the luxurious interior. "I'm getting your car wet," she said apologetically. "It'll dry," he replied, starting the engine. "Where to?" Aisha hesitated, knowing her Harlem neighborhood was far from this man's world. She said she was near the station on 125th Street, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm Aisha, by the way." "Nathan?" he answered, glancing at her quickly as if committing every detail to memory. The windshield wipers moved in a steady rhythm between them. Aisha stole a look at him. His broad shoulders radiated confidence, and his hands gripped the wheel with the ease of someone used to command. The watch on his wrist cost more than her entire apartment. "You work at Sterling Tower?" he asked, noticing her uniform. "Cleaning crew." "Night shift," she answered plainly. "And you?" A faint smile crossed his lips. "I work there too." His tone was elusive, as if he were hiding something important. Aisha didn't press further, thinking that thousands worked there in a building as vast as Sterling Tower and rarely crossed paths. As the car entered Aisha's neighborhood, the streets narrowed. Old buildings emerged with peeling paint and barred windows. Water flooded the roads, spilling over sidewalks, and Aisha realized the situation was worse than she thought. Nathan stopped before her building, but his brows furrowed at the scene. Water flowing like a river, flickering streetlights, and a small crowd shouting under an awning about the power outage. "Is this your building?" he asked in a low voice. "The ground floor's flooded, and the whole area looks unsafe." Before Aisha could answer, a loud bang erupted in the distance, followed by a burst of blue light. A transformer had blown, plunging the block into darkness. Screams and the cries of children echoed from nearby buildings. Aisha clutched her bag tightly, trying to think of a plan. She had no family and nowhere else to go. A public shelter would be overcrowded on a night like this. "Do you have somewhere else to stay tonight?" Nathan asked, a voice full of concern. Aisha shook her head, trying to hide her panic. She said I'd figure something out, but her voice lacked conviction. They sat silently for a moment, the only sound of the rain beating against the windows. Then Nathan spoke, his tone calm but firm. "I have a guest room at my place. You can stay the night, until the storm passes, and you can check on your apartment." The offer stunned Aisha. She looked at him, searching for any trace of evil intentions, but all she saw was sincerity. "Why are you helping me?" she asked directly. "You don't even know me." "Because I can," he replied. "And no one should face a storm like this alone, if they don't have to." Another explosion sounded in the distance, underscoring his words. Aisha weighed her options. Staying meant risking the darkness and floodwater. Going with Nathan was another gamble. Finally, she nodded. "All right, thank you." Nathan smiled, turned the car around, and left the flooded street behind. Aisha sat still, her heart pounding, unsure whether she had made the right choice. She was stepping into a stranger's world, a world belonging to the kind of man she only ever saw through the doors she cleaned. But at that moment, under the relentless rain, she felt something unfamiliar, a flicker of light in the dark. as if fate had just opened a door she never knew existed. Nathan Sterling's penthouse sat at the top of a towering skyscraper, where flashes of lightning lit up the marble floor. Aisha Carter stood in the living room, her soaked jacket dripping onto the rug. She clutched her bag tightly, feeling out of place in this luxurious space. With abstract paintings on the walls, soft leather sofas, and a view of the Manhattan skyline blurred by the storm. The rhythmic rain tapping against the glass created a steady beat, almost soothing her tension. Nathan led her down the hallway to a small guest room. He said, "You can shower in here," pointing to a bathroom larger than Aisha's entire apartment. "I'll find some dry clothes." He disappeared for a moment and returned with a gray t-shirt and sweatpants. "They'll be big, but better than wet clothes." "Thank you," Aisha said, her voice quieter than she intended. She stepped into the bathroom, closed the door, and took a long breath. The tile floor was warm beneath her feet, and the shower had jets from every angle. She peeled off her uniform, letting the hot water wash away the chill and exhaustion. Standing under the spray, she tried to process what was happening. Just hours ago, she'd been scrubbing floors at Sterling Tower, worrying about next month's electric bill. Now, she was in a stranger's home, one wealthier than anyone she'd ever met. The gap unsettled her, yet the sincerity in Nathan's eyes when he invited her to stay lingered in her mind. After the shower, Aisha put on Nathan's clothes. The t-shirt draped over her shoulders, and the sweatpants had to be folded at the waist to fit. She tied her damp hair into a loose bun and looked at herself in the mirror. Without her uniform, she felt exposed, as if the armor she wore to face the world had fallen away. She took a deep breath and followed the scent of food into the kitchen. Nathan was stirring a pot of something at the stove, now dressed in a black t-shirt and comfortable slacks. He looked more approachable, less like a powerful CEO. "Feeling better?" he asked, glancing at her. "Much," Aisha replied, taking a seat at the kitchen counter. She felt awkward, unaccustomed to being in a space like this without cleaning it. "What are you cooking?" "Pasta," he said with a small smile. "It's one of the few things I can make without ruining it." The simple admission caught her off guard. She had assumed a man like him would have a private chef, a billionaire who cooks for himself, she said with a teasing tone. "Color me shocked." He laughed, his eyes sparkling. "So you know who I am? Who works at Sterling Tower and doesn't know Nathan Sterling?" she replied. "Your portrait hangs in the lobby. I wipe the frame 5 days a week." He nodded, not the least embarrassed. "Fair enough. You've got the advantage. I don't know anything about you except that you clean offices and aren't afraid to speak plainly." Aisha shrugged, sipping water from the glass he handed her. "Not much to know. I work, pay bills, and try not to let life crush me." "I wouldn't say that," he replied, his gaze sharper. "I've seen how you look at things, carefully as if memorizing them. People like that usually have a story worth hearing." His words made her pause. She wasn't used to being noticed this way, not as an invisible worker. "Maybe," she said softly, "but my story isn't as glamorous as yours." Nathan turned off the stove, plated the pasta, and poured a rich garlic sauce. He slid a plate toward her and sat across from her. "Glamorous doesn't mean interesting," he said. "Tell me, Aisha, what do you do when you're not cleaning my floors?" She hesitated, then decided to be honest. "I draw, paint, sketch, anything I can. I take online art classes when I can afford the time. I want to have my pieces in a gallery someday, but—" She trailed off, feeling silly for voicing such a big dream. "But what?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Life doesn't make it easy for dreams like that," she said. "Growing up in a foster home teaches you to prioritize reality. But I can't stop drawing. It's like breathing to me. Nathan looked at her with no trace of judgment. That's not a foolish dream. That's passion. I had something like that once, but I gave it up. She tilted her head. You? Gave up what? He shrugged as if to downplay it. Music. I played guitar and wrote a few songs back in college, but when my father died, I had to take over the company. There wasn't time for things that didn't generate revenue. Aisha heard the regret in his voice, a crack in his otherwise perfect exterior. Do you ever think about going back? She asked. Sometimes, he admitted, but I'm unsure I remember how to feel how I used to. Their conversation flowed strangely naturally, as if the storm outside had blurred the lines between their two worlds. Aisha spoke of her difficult upbringing and how she found joy in sketches drawn on subway rides. Nathan opened up about the pressure of running an empire, about sleepless nights when a wrong decision could impact thousands of employees. They laughed when Aisha teased him about being a clumsy cook, and he teased back that she was surely better at painting than he was at boiling water. Later they moved to the living room, each with a glass of wine. The atmosphere grew more intimate. Aisha curled up on the sofa, while Nathan sat close enough that she could feel his warmth. The storm still howled outside, but inside the room, there was only stillness between them. Thank you for tonight, Aisha said, looking into her glass. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been there. I'm just glad I was in the right place at the right time, he replied, his gaze locked on her. Though I'll admit, I don't usually pick up a stranger in a storm. She laughed, but the smile faded quickly as his eyes grew deeper, as if seeing through her. Her heart raced, an unfamiliar but powerful sensation. So, what is your usual routine? She asked, trying to keep her tone light. Work, he said, voice low. Always work. Build. Expand. Win. But sometimes I wonder, what's it all for? His words hung there, heavy with vulnerability. Without thinking, Aisha placed her hand on his. To find something worth more than numbers, she said. He looked at her hand, then into her eyes. The space between them felt charged, dense with possibility. Aisha, he said, voice husky, I want to kiss you. But if it's not right, say so. Her heart pounded. She had guarded herself for years, avoiding relationships that could hurt her. But Nathan, with his sincerity and his quiet wounds, made her want to let down her walls. Kiss me, she whispered. He leaned in, his hand gently touching her cheek. The first kiss was soft, exploratory, but as she responded, it deepened, full of longing. She felt his heartbeat through his shirt, his breath mingling with hers. The kiss drew them into a world made only for the two of them, where the storm, their differences, and the outside world no longer existed. When they pulled apart, both were breathing heavily. Aisha, he said, his forehead resting against hers. I don't want to stop, but I need to know that you do. She looked into his eyes, seeing restraint and sincerity. She had never gone this far with anyone, but she felt safe with Nathan. Seen. I want to, she said, her voice steady. In Nathan's bedroom, they explored each other with tenderness and desire that night. He guided her through unfamiliar feelings, respectful of her inexperience, and she responded with complete trust. As they lay beside each other, their breaths entwined, Aisha felt something in her shift, something profound, not just physical. Her heart had opened to someone she never imagined meeting. Morning light filtered through the sheer curtains in Nathan Sterling's bedroom, casting soft streaks across the wooden floor. Aisha Carter woke up, her body still warm from the night before, but her mind quickly returned to reality. She lay beside Nathan, his breathing steady in sleep, one arm still wrapped around her as if unwilling to let go. In that peaceful moment, she almost believed everything could be simple, that the night of passion they shared might be the beginning of something real. But as she looked around the room, the expansive bed with silk sheets, the windows overlooking a radiant Manhattan skyline, a sense of unease crept in. She didn't belong here. Gently, Aisha slipped out from under Nathan's arm, got out of bed, and pulled on the t-shirt he had given her the night before. Barefoot, she walked down the hall and searched her bag for her phone. The screen lit up with a missed call from Keisha and a message from her supervisor, Linda. "Call me ASAP. It's important." Aisha's heart began to race. She dialed back, keeping her voice low not to wake Nathan. "Aisha," Linda's blunt voice came through. "The cleaning company lost its contract with Sterling Tower. They're cutting the budget after the storm. Most of the night crew, including you, are being let go. I'm sorry." The words hit like a punch. Aisha froze, her hand tightening around the phone. "Let go? But why so suddenly?" "They didn't say," Linda replied. "Just something about restructuring. You know how it is. People like us are always the first to go. I'll send the full email later." The call ended, leaving Aisha in silence. She looked out the window at a city waking up after the storm. The job at Sterling Tower wasn't just her primary source of income. It symbolized the independence she'd fought for since aging out of the foster system. Losing it meant starting over again, while her dream of becoming an artist felt further away than ever. Soft footsteps echoed behind her. Nathan appeared in the doorway, his hair tousled, dressed in a t-shirt and lounge pants. "Good morning," he said with a smile, quickly fading when he saw her face. "Something wrong?" Aisha took a breath, trying to steady her voice. "I just lost my job. The cleaning company got cut from the Sterling Tower contract. I don't have work anymore." Nathan's brow furrowed as he stepped closer. "What? Who made that decision?" "I wasn't told anything." She looked at him, suspicion flashing in her eyes. "You mean you didn't know? It's your company." He said, "I don't handle every minor detail," and his tone is tense. "But I'll find out. I can fix this, Aisha. One call, and you'll have your job back." The offer made her freeze. Part of her wanted to accept. Her job had been her stability, and Nathan had the power to restore it. But another part, deeper, rebelled at the thought. If she let him intervene, what would she become? A woman who kept her job because she slept with the boss? The idea made her feel small, as if their connection the night before wasn't real, but transactional. "No," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. "I don't want you to call. I'll find a new job myself." Nathan stared at her, confused. "Aisha, I'm just trying to help. You don't have to do everything alone." "But I do," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't want to be your charity case. I've gotten through everything alone, and I'll keep doing it." He opened his mouth to respond, but her phone buzzed with a message from Keisha. "Neighborhood flooded. Your apartment was hit. Are you okay?" Aisha's heart sank. She immediately called her building manager, who confirmed the ground floor had flooded entirely, and her second-floor unit had suffered severe leaks. "Unlivable for now," he said. "You should find another place for a few weeks." Aisha lowered her phone, the floor beneath her seeming to collapse. No job, no home, and now she was standing in Nathan's penthouse, reliant on his kindness. She turned back to see the concern in his eyes. "My apartment. It's flooded," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I can't go back." "Stay here," Nathan said immediately, stepping closer. "You can use the guest room for as long as you need. I'll help you find a new place or fix yours. Whatever you need. His offer, though sincere, felt suffocating. She shook her head, stepping back. Nathan, I appreciate it, but I can't stay here and live off your money when I have nothing. Last night, it was terrific, but now I must find my footing again. He looked at her, eyes full of conflict. I don't want you to feel trapped, but Aisha, I care about you. Last night wasn't just a night, not to me. His words made her heart ache. She felt the same. Their connection had been real, more profound than anything she had ever experienced. But reality pressed down hard. She was a janitor who'd just been fired, and he owned the building where she worked. That distance couldn't be erased by one night of passion. She said, I need time to think, turning so he wouldn't see the tears in her eyes. I'll call Keisha to see if I can stay with her. Thank you for everything, Nathan. He stepped forward, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. Aisha, I won't pressure you, but let me drive you to Keisha's. Don't walk like this. She nodded, too drained to argue. As they gathered her things, just a small bag and her soaked uniform, Aisha felt a silent distance forming between them. Last night, they had been so close. She thought every barrier had fallen away. But this morning, those walls felt taller than ever. Dependence, inequality, and her fear that she'd lose herself if she let Nathan pull her too far into his world. In Nathan's car, they said almost nothing. Aisha stared out the window as the manicured streets of Manhattan gave way to the older buildings of Harlem. She thought of her apartment, unfinished paintings, her sketchbook, the small pieces of a dream she had built. She couldn't let them be swept away, just as she couldn't let herself be swept into Nathan's life without her foundation. Nathan turned to her when the car stopped in front of Keisha's building. Aisha, he said, his voice low. I'll wait for you if you need me. Just call. She nodded, not daring to meet his eyes. Thank you, she said, stepping out of the car. As the door closed behind her, she felt part of her heart stay with him. But she knew she had to find herself again, before she could let him back into her life. Aisha Carter sat on a worn-out armchair in Keisha's small apartment, sunlight spilling through the window onto the sketchbook in her lap. But today, her pencil remained still. The events of the past 2 days, the storm, the passionate night with Nathan Sterling, the loss of her job, and her flooded apartment, spun in her mind like a whirlwind. She stayed temporarily with Keisha, her best friend who always opened her arms to help, but a feeling of unease clung to her. She wanted to call Nathan, to hear his voice, but she hesitated every time she picked up her phone. The distance between their worlds felt wider than ever. Across Manhattan, Nathan Sterling stood in his top-floor office at Sterling Tower, gazing down at the city through the glass. Usually, that view gave him a sense of control. Today, it only made him feel empty. He had tried to reach Aisha, sending a short message. Are you okay? I'm here if you need me. But she hadn't responded, and the silence gnawed at him. The night they shared had changed him, awakened a part of himself he thought long buried. But now, he realized keeping her in his life meant facing obstacles bigger than any storm. That morning, Nathan's phone buzzed with a call from Vanessa Porter, head of public relations for Sterling Enterprises. You need to see this immediately, she said tensely. Vanessa sent a link to the New York Courier, a notorious tabloid. The headline screamed at him. Billionaire Sterling and the janitor, the storm's hidden affair. The article included a photo of Nathan helping Aisha into his car in the rain, and a second, blurrier one, shot through a telephoto lens, of them inside his penthouse. The piece was filled with nasty speculation. Is the janitor exploiting Nathan Sterling's kindness? Or is this just a fleeting amusement for the powerful CEO. Nathan gripped his phone, fury rising. Who leaked this? He barked through the speakerphone. Someone in the building sold the photos, Vanessa said. A tenant, security, or even an employee. The media's circling like sharks. They're connecting the janitorial layoffs to this relationship, implying Ms. Carter was given special treatment before being cut. That's garbage, Nathan growled. I didn't order that contract to be terminated. I'm still investigating who did it. It doesn't matter what the truth is, Vanessa replied flatly. The public believes the straightforward narrative. A wealthy man and a lower-class woman with suspicious motives. The board is nervous. They've called for an emergency meeting this morning. Nathan hung up, feeling cornered. He wanted to call Aisha to warn her about the article, but he knew she needed space. Instead, he prepared for the meeting, determined to defend not just his reputation, but Aisha. Meanwhile, in Keisha's apartment, Aisha received a text from her former co-worker, Maria. Have you seen the article? They're talking about you and Mr. Sterling. Aisha opened her phone, her heart pounding as she read the New York Courier headline. She skimmed the piece, every sentence slicing like a blade. The mystery girl, suspicious affair, fired to cover it up. Her face flushed with heat, shame, anger, disbelief. She had spent her life avoiding the spotlight, refusing to be defined by her circumstances. She'd been turned into a character in a cheap tabloid scandal. Keisha, who was just home from work, noticed Aisha's expression. What's wrong? She asked, sitting beside her. Aisha handed her the phone without a word. Keisha scanned the article, then shook her head. These vultures want clicks. Don't let them break you. But they're not entirely wrong, Aisha said, her voice trembling. I stayed at his place, Keisha. I slept with him, and now I've lost my job and my home. Everyone will think I used him to climb up. Keisha took her hand. You're not that kind of person, and you know that. The question is he worth fighting for? Or are you going to let these trashy headlines push you away? Aisha didn't answer immediately. She thought about Nathan, his eyes, when he spoke of the music dreams he gave up, the tenderness in his touch the night they shared. But she also thought about the inequality between them. He could make this article vanish with a phone call. She'd have to live with the whispers behind her back forever. At Sterling Tower, the boardroom was tense. 10 stern faces sat around the long conference table, led by CFO Lawrence Henderson. Nathan, Lawrence began coldly, this relationship is a liability. The public is questioning your judgment, and investors don't like instability. We just finalized a major deal with Tokyo. Do you want them doubting us now? Nathan kept his voice steady, though rage simmered beneath it. My personal life is none of the board's concern, unless it directly affects company performance. It already is, interjected Miranda Wells, head of investments. She slid a tablet toward him, displaying social media posts. Sterling Enterprises is covering up the scandal, and the CEO is exploiting employees. This story's spreading fast, and the timing of the janitorial layoffs isn't helping. That decision wasn't mine, Nathan snapped. Lawrence, you acted without consulting me. Please don't blame me for this mess. Lawrence shrugged. I did what was necessary to protect the bottom line. You weren't around when the call had to be made. But this isn't the time for blame. You need to act. Publicly deny the relationship. Frame her as someone you helped during the storm. Nothing more. Nathan clenched his fists under the table. He was disgusted by denying Aisha and reducing her to a PR statement footnote. I won't do that, he said firmly. She's not a problem to fix. She's someone I care about. Silence gripped the room. Lawrence exchanged a glance with Miranda. Whether you care or not, Nathan, the company matters more than your feelings. Think of our 15,000 employees, our shareholders. The meeting ended with no resolution. leaving Nathan in emotional turmoil. He knew he needed to talk to Aisha, but also knew she was hurting. Back in his office, he sent another message. I saw the article. I'm sorry. We need to talk, whenever you're ready. Aisha read the message, but didn't respond. Instead, she stood, opened her sketchbook, and began to draw. Fierce, deliberate lines that mirrored her emotions. She sketched a city drowning in the rain, but at its center stood a lone figure, upright, defiant against the storm. It was her, or at least the version of herself she aspired to become. She knew she had to face Nathan eventually, but first, she had to reclaim her strength, so she wouldn't be swept away by his world or broken by the judgment of others. Keisha's apartment in Harlem was small but warm, with family photos on the walls and the faint smell of coffee drifting in from the kitchen. Aisha Carter lay on the pull-out sofa, morning light slipping through the curtains, illuminating the open sketchbook on her chest. Ever since leaving Nathan Sterling's penthouse, she had been here for 3 days, trying to regain her footing after the storm had upended her life. But each night, as streetlights flickered through the window, her mind wandered to Nathan, his eyes, his voice, the feeling of safety in his arms. She pushed those thoughts away, reminding herself she needed to focus on herself first. Aisha got up, folded her blanket neatly, and checked her phone. A new message from Nathan that morning. I respect your space, but I'm here if you want to talk. She stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the reply button, then set the phone down. She wasn't angry at him. He hadn't canceled the janitorial contract, and he couldn't control the press. But the New York Courier's vile article had triggered a deep-seated fear that she would be defined by her relationship with him, not by who she truly was. Keisha stepped out of the bedroom, still in her nurse scrubs after a night shift. She said, "You look like you just ran a mental marathon," pouring coffee into 2 mugs. Still, thinking about your billionaire? Aisha accepted the coffee with a faint smile. I don't want to, but he keeps showing up in my head. I just don't know what I'm doing, Keisha. 1 minute, I feel like I can take on the world by his side. The next, I'm scared I'll lose myself if I step into his world. Keisha sat down beside her, her eyes sharp, yet gentle. Listen, Aisha. I've watched you survive things that would break other people. Losing your mom, the foster system, working 2 jobs to stay afloat. If you can get through all that, you can get through this. But you have to decide, is he worth the risk? Or are you going to let fear win? Her words struck deep. Aisha wasn't afraid of Nathan. She was scared of what he represented. A world where she might be seen as a gold digger, where his spotlight could overshadow her dream of becoming an artist. I need to stand on my own first, she said. I need a job, a place to live, something that belongs to me. Then start, Keisha replied, pushing the sketchbook toward her. Draw. Find work. You're strongest when you're doing what you love. Aisha opened the sketchbook and looked at the drawing she had made the night before. A woman standing in a storm, eyes fierce and unwavering. She picked up her pencil and began adding details, letting each line help her untangle her emotions. Drawing had always been her anchor in chaos. Now, it was the lifeline keeping her grounded. Meanwhile, at Sterling Tower, Nathan sat in his office, staring at a financial report on his screen that he wasn't reading. He had asked the legal team to investigate the janitorial contract termination and found out that Lawrence Henderson, the CFO, had acted independently to optimize costs after the storm. Nathan had ordered the contract reinstated, but he knew that wasn't enough to fix what had happened with Aisha. She didn't want him to interfere, and he respected that, though it left him feeling helpless, an unfamiliar sensation for a man used to controlling everything. He glanced at his phone, hoping for a message from Aisha. Instead, he saw a notification from Vanessa Porter. "The press isn't letting go. I need your approval for a denial statement." Nathan deleted the message. He wouldn't deny Aisha, not for his reputation or the board. But her silence made him wonder if she wanted to cut him off entirely. That thought stabbed at him, as though a piece of him had been missing since she walked out of his penthouse. To distract himself, Nathan summoned James, his assistant. "I want to initiate a new project," he said. "A charity fund. Housing and education support for neighborhoods affected by natural disasters, like Harlem after the storm. It should be independent of Sterling Enterprises." "Use my funds." James raised an eyebrow. "That's a great idea, but this is about Ms. Carter, right?" Nathan didn't deny it. "She helped me see what I'd ignored for too long. But this isn't just for her. It's the right thing to do." James nodded, jotting notes. "I'll prepare a proposal. But you should know, the board's not thrilled about the press. They want you to appear at next week's charity gala to help calm the narrative." Nathan sighed. He hated those events, where he had to wear the perfect CEO mask. But he agreed, hoping it would keep the board quiet long enough for him to focus on the new foundation, and Aisha, if she gave him the chance. That same day, Aisha decided to act. She opened her old laptop and started applying for jobs. She sent her resume to a few art supply stores and cafes, even though the pay was less than her cleaning job. She also contacted her building manager, who said repairs would take at least 2 more weeks. Every step felt small, but they helped her reclaim a sense of control. That afternoon, she went to a nearby park with her sketchbook. Sitting on a bench, she sketched children playing in the sunlight after the storm. The lines flowed naturally, and she felt relief for the first time in days. She thought about Nathan, his laugh when she teased him about cooking, the way he listened when she talked about her dreams. But she also remembered the article, the poisonous headlines calling her a manipulator. She couldn't let herself be swept into his world without her grounding. When she returned to Keisha's apartment, her friend watched the news. "Relief efforts are underway in Harlem," the anchor said. "Sterling Enterprises sponsors temporary housing for displaced residents." Aisha furrowed her brow. That was Nathan's company. Was he behind this? She wasn't sure, but the thought made her heart beat faster. Keisha looked over and smiled. "It looks like your guy's trying. So, what are you going to do?" Aisha didn't answer right away. She opened her phone and looked at Nathan's last message. Her thumb hovered again. Still no reply. She needed time, and she needed strength. But part of her already knew she couldn't run forever. Nathan wasn't the storm. He was the one who pulled her out of it. But before returning to him, she had to be sure she was standing alone, not just a shadow in his world. Aisha Carter sat in Keisha's small Harlem apartment, afternoon light filtering through the window, illuminating the kitchen table where she scrolled through job listings. 5 days had passed since she left Nathan Sterling's penthouse, and though her heart still ached when she thought of him, she was determined to rebuild her life. Losing her job at Sterling Tower and her water-damaged apartment had been heavy blows, but starting over was nothing new to her. Beside her, her sketchbook overflowed with new drawings, Harlem streets after the storm, the faces she'd seen in the park, reminders that she could still create beauty amid the chaos. Her phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number lit up the screen. She picked up, her voice cautious. "Hello?" "Ms. Carter, this is Judith from Artist Haven Gallery in Chelsea," a warm female voice replied. "We received your application for the assistant manager position. Would you be available for an interview tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Aisha blinked, trying to recall when she had applied to Artist Haven. She'd submitted dozens of applications over the past week, but didn't remember sending one to such a reputable gallery. "Yes, I can be there," she answered, a note of uncertainty in her voice. "To confirm, my application came from..." Where exactly? An art hiring platform, Judith said. Your portfolio was impressive, especially the sketches. We think you'd be an excellent fit for our team. Aisha ended the call, her heart racing. An opportunity at a gallery was the kind of break she had dreamed of, but a part of her couldn't help wondering. Had Nathan pulled strings behind the scenes? He had the influence to do it. After the New York Courier article, she became hypersensitive to any signs of interference. She opened her laptop, checked her application history, and breathed a sigh of relief when she found a confirmation email from the previous week. She had applied to Artist Haven during a late-night spiral of desperate hope, not expecting a reply. Keisha walked in carrying a bag of takeout. "You look like you just won the lottery," she teased, setting the bag down. "What's up?" "I got an interview," Aisha said, "but I'm still in disbelief. At a gallery. Artist Haven, assistant manager." Keisha whistled. "That's a big step up. But why do you look so nervous? Do you think your billionaire pulled some strings?" Aisha nodded, admitting the fear. "I don't want anything tied to him. I need to know this is mine, Keisha." "Then you'll figure it out," Keisha said, sliding her a glass of water. "Go to the interview, ask questions, and prove you deserve it. You always do." That night, Aisha carefully laid out a simple black dress, the best of the few pieces she'd salvaged from her flooded apartment. She reviewed her portfolio again, filled with sketches of Harlem and abstract depictions of resilience. She didn't sleep much, but it wasn't from anxiety. She was excited. She felt like she was moving forward for the first time in days. Across the city, Nathan Sterling sat in his office at Sterling Tower, neon lights of the city flickering across the windows. In front of him was a thick folder detailing a new charity fund he had been building, the Sterling Community Recovery Fund, which focused on housing, education, and small business support in neighborhoods like Harlem. He had spent long hours meeting with lawyers and planners over the past few days to ensure the fund would be completely independent of Sterling Enterprises and financed through his assets. The idea had been born from Aisha. Her story, her dreams, and how she saw the world had shown him he could do more than make money. James, his assistant, knocked and entered. "Here's the packet for the fund," he said, placing it on the desk. "But I have to ask, this is about her." Nathan frowned, but didn't deny it. "She made me see what I've been missing. But this isn't just about her. It's bigger." James nodded, though his look said he understood more than Nathan admitted. "The board's still pressuring you about the article. They want you at next week's charity gala and expect you to deny any involvement with Ms. Carter publicly." "I'll go to the gala," Nathan said, voice firm. "But I'm not denying her. If they want a story, I'll tell them about what we're doing to rebuild this city." James left, and Nathan sat alone with his thoughts. He checked his phone, hoping for a message from Aisha, but found only work notifications. He missed her smile, the way she made him feel real, alive. But he also knew she needed space, and he was determined to respect that, even if it left him feeling hollow. The next morning, Aisha stood before Artist Haven, a small but refined space in Chelsea with paintings hung behind glass walls. She took a deep breath and stepped inside, greeted by Judith, a silver-haired woman with a kind smile. The interview went more smoothly than she expected. Judith reviewed her portfolio and sketches and even asked about her experience managing inventory during her cleaning job. "You have a unique artistic eye," Judith said, "and a sharp sense of organization. We need someone like you." Aisha couldn't help herself. "I want to be sure. Did anyone refer Medid to me? Someone from Sterling Enterprises, perhaps?" Judith frowned, then shook her head. "No. Your application came through a job site. We were impressed by your work and your background. Is there a problem?" Aisha smiled, the suspicion fading. "No problem at all. I'd love to work here. She left the gallery with a job offer, starting the following Monday. The pay wasn't high, but it was enough to start fresh. And employees got discounts on art supplies, a step closer to her dream. Walking down the street, she felt lighter, like a piece of the burden had been lifted. She had done this, not because of Nathan, but because of herself. She texted Keisha, "I got the job. Artist Haven, starting Monday." Keisha replied instantly, "That's the Aisha I know. Celebration tonight?" Aisha smiled, but when she looked at her phone again, she saw Nathan's message from the day before. She hesitated, then typed, "I'm okay. Thank you for being patient." She said nothing more, but it was a small step, a signal that she hadn't closed the door on him completely. Meanwhile, Nathan received Aisha's message while meeting with the legal team of the charity fund. He smiled, feeling a flicker of strength return. He didn't know about her new opportunity, but he knew she was fighting, which made him even more determined to complete the fund. Not just to help the community, but to prove that he could be part of her world, without overshadowing it. Aisha Carter stood in Keisha's small apartment, the glow of Harlem streetlights filtering through the curtains, casting soft light on the black dress she'd just tried on for her first day at Artist Haven. A week had passed since she'd received the job offer, and the pride of earning it alone still made her smile. But every night, when silence settled over the room, her thoughts drifted to Nathan Sterling. His smile, his deep voice, the pain in his eyes when she walked out of his penthouse. She had sent him a short message, a small sign that she hadn't shut the door completely, but she still wasn't ready to face him. Her phone buzzed, cutting through her thoughts. A message from Nathan. "I need to see you. There's something important I want to share. Can I come by?" She hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. Part of her wanted to say no, afraid that seeing him again would unravel the fragile independence she was rebuilding. But another part longed to see him, to know if what they felt could survive the fears she hadn't yet overcome. She typed back, "Okay, I'm at Keisha's. The address is 145th Street. An hour later, a knock came at the door. Aisha took a deep breath and opened it. Nathan stood there, still in his impeccably tailored suit, but with an uncharacteristically unsettled expression, as if carrying an invisible burden. "Hi," he said, his voice hesitant, something rare for him. "Hi," Aisha replied, stepping aside to let him in. Keisha's apartment was small and modestly furnished, and the tight sofa starkly contrasted Nathan's spacious penthouse. He glanced around, but his eyes held no judgment. "Keisha's working," she said, breaking the silence. "It's just me here." "Good," he said, sitting on the sofa as she gestured. "I didn't want to text this. I need to say it face to face." She sat across from him, keeping a respectful distance. "Is this about the article? My job?" Nathan shook his head. "No. It's about us. And about something I've been working on. Something I think you could be part of." Aisha raised an eyebrow, suspicion rising again. "What do you mean?" He took a breath, his gaze locked on hers. "I've created a charity fund, the Sterling Community Recovery Fund. It focuses on housing, education, and small business support in neighborhoods like Harlem. It's separate from Sterling Enterprises and funded with my assets. Please run it." Aisha blinked, stunned. "Run it? Me? I don't have a degree and no executive experience. But you have something more important," Nathan said with quiet conviction. "You understand these communities, what they need, what they face. You have a perspective no one in my boardrooms has. This isn't charity or pity, Aisha. It's a real job, with a salary, an office, a team. I'm offering it because you're the right person, not because of what we shared." His words left her speechless. She thought about growing up with nothing, standing in welfare lines, working herself to exhaustion to keep her dream of art alive. Managing a fund like this could change lives like hers. But it would also bring her closer to Nathan and his world. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "Why not someone with an MBA or someone from your world?" "Because you see what I don't," he answered. "You made me rethink what responsibility means. But Aisha, I'm not pressuring you. This is your choice." She searched his face for signs of manipulation, but saw only sincerity. Then he added, his voice lower. "There's more. I'm stepping down as CEO of Sterling Enterprises. I'll stay on the board and focus on long-term strategy. But I want time for the fund and for us, if you'll have me." Aisha froze. "You're leaving your company? For me?" "Not just for you," he said, eyes steady. "For me. After my father died, the company became everything. I built it up and proved myself, but I forgot how to live beyond numbers and deals. You reminded me." His words touched something deep inside her. She remembered the night they shared, how he had opened up about his abandoned dream of music, how he looked at her like she was the only thing that mattered. But still, she hesitated. "Nathan, I just got this job at Artist Haven. I'm trying to build something that's mine. If I take this role with you, people will say I only got it because of you. And us, we're still from such different worlds." He nodded, understanding. "I know, and I know what people will say, but I believe you can prove them wrong. Not for me, but because of who you are. As for us, I don't want you to change for me. I want us to find a way to both be ourselves." Aisha sat in silence, her heart pulled in different directions. She thought of the gallery job, her half-finished sketches, the dream she'd fought so hard to protect. The foundation was a chance to create real change, but it would also tether her closer to Nathan and everything his world entailed. "I need time to think," she said at last. "This is a big decision." "I understand," Nathan said, rising to his feet. "You know where to find me. And Aisha, I miss you." His words pierced her carefully constructed armor. She stood and stepped closer. "I miss you too," she admitted softly. "But I need to be sure I won't lose myself." He nodded, gently touching her hand. "I'll wait." Then he left, leaving Aisha wrapped in a swirl of emotions. She sat down, opened her sketchbook, and began to draw, not to escape, but to understand her heart. A new image emerged slowly, two figures standing side by side, but not blending into one another. Each held its light. Later that night, Keisha returned from work and found Aisha sketching. "So, how was it?" "The billionaire showed up?" she asked, settling beside her. Aisha recounted everything, the charity fund, the offer, and Nathan stepping down as CEO. Keisha listened carefully, then said, "It sounds like he's trying to meet you halfway. But the question is, do you want to step across that line?" Aisha looked at her drawing, where the two figures seemed almost touching. She didn't have an answer yet, but she knew she couldn't keep running. This opportunity, both the job and Nathan, could be a new beginning or a significant risk. But she felt strong enough to face either possibility for the first time. Aisha Carter stood in front of the mirror in Keisha's apartment, adjusting the navy blue dress she had bought with her first paycheck from Artist Haven. The dress hugged her figure modestly, elegant but not flashy, just enough for her to feel confident. Today, she was heading to the Sterling family estate in Connecticut to meet Nathan's mother, Elizabeth Sterling. The thought alone made her heart race. It wasn't just Elizabeth's status, one of the most powerful women in New York's elite, but what she represented. a gateway into a world Aisha had never belonged to. Nathan waited at the door, dressed in a crisp white shirt and tailored trousers. He looked relaxed, but still exuded his signature quiet confidence. "You look stunning," he said with a gentle smile. "My mother will be impressed, though she won't show it easily." Aisha replied, "I'm not dressing to impress," though she knew that wasn't entirely true. "I want to feel like myself." Nathan said that's precisely why she might like you, reassuringly touching her shoulder. "You're real, Aisha. That's rare in her world." The drive to Connecticut took over an hour. Aisha sat quietly, watching the city melt into sweeping green fields. Her mind drifted to Nathan's offer, the role of managing the Sterling Community Recovery Fund. She still hadn't answered, torn between the opportunity to make a real change and the fear of being seen as someone who got the job simply because of her relationship. She glanced at Nathan behind the wheel, wondering if he truly understood the pressure she faced. The Sterling estate rose before them like something out of a magazine, an expansive stone mansion surrounded by manicured lawns and towering oak trees. Aisha took a deep breath as Nathan parked the car. She felt like she was stepping into another universe. "You okay?" he asked, his hand brushing hers. "Just a little overwhelmed," she admitted with a wry smile. "This place is bigger than any park I've ever sketched." He chuckled. "I grew up here, but it never felt like home, just a place to sleep." The front door opened before they could knock. Elizabeth Sterling stood tall, her silver hair swept into a bun, eyes as sharp as Nathan's. "You're 5 minutes late," she said, not quite scolding. "Traffic, I assume?" "Yes," Nathan replied, kissing her cheek lightly. "Mother, this is Aisha Carter." "Aisha, my mother, Elizabeth Sterling." Aisha extended her hand, but Elizabeth only looked her over, head to toe, without offering hers. "Let's go inside," she said, turning down a long stone hallway lined with oil paintings. Aisha could feel the weight of judgment with every step. Dinner was served in a grand dining room, the long wooden table set with fine china and crystal glasses. Elizabeth sat at the head, with Nathan and Aisha across from each other. The conversation started light, but Elizabeth's questions soon turned pointed. "What do you do, Miss Carter?" she asked, lifting her wine glass. "I work at an art gallery in Chelsea," Aisha replied evenly, "and I sketch in my spare time." "An artist," Elizabeth mused. "It's not an easy path, especially coming from difficult beginnings." Aisha gripped her napkin beneath the table, catching the subtle dig. "Yes," she said, meeting Elizabeth's gaze. "I grew up in the foster system. I've worked many jobs to survive, but art gives my life meaning. I'm not looking for easy." Elizabeth raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Nathan watched silently, pride gleaming in his eyes. The conversation shifted to the Sterling Community Recovery Fund. Elizabeth's tone sharpened again. "Nathan says you might manage it. It's a significant project for someone with no formal leadership experience. Are you qualified?" Aisha took a breath and recognized the test. She said, "I may not have a degree like the people in your boardrooms, but I know the lives we're trying to impact. I've stood in food lines. I've lived in unsafe housing. I know what real need looks like, not from a textbook, but from experience. If I take this role, I'll give it everything." Elizabeth studied her, then gave a slow nod and the faintest smile. "You speak plainly. I like that. Too many in your position would try to win me over." "I'm not here to win anyone over," Aisha said calmly. "I'm here because Nathan invited me, and I want to understand him better." Dinner continued with easier topics, but Aisha could still feel Elizabeth's quiet scrutiny. After dessert, the older woman led them into a warm study lined with towering bookshelves. She retrieved a small wooden box from a drawer and opened it to reveal a pair of vintage pearl earrings. "They belong to Nathan's grandmother," she said, offering the box. "They are not the most expensive pair, but they have a history. They suit you." Aisha blinked, stunned. "Mrs. Sterling, I can't—" "Call me Elizabeth," she interrupted, gently closing Aisha's fingers around the box. "And yes, you can. It's not a gift. It's recognition. You're not like the others Nathan's brought home. You have strength, and I respect that." The words caught Aisha off guard. She glanced at Nathan, who was smiling with relief. "Thank you, Elizabeth," Aisha said, her voice thick with emotion. On the drive back to the city, Aisha sat in thoughtful silence. "She's not what I expected," she finally said. "I thought she'd try to run me off." "She's not easy to please," Nathan said, taking her hand. "But she knows real when she sees it. And you did better than you think." Aisha looked down at the pearl earrings nestled in her lap. They felt like a door had been opened, not just into Nathan's family, but into a future she hadn't imagined. Still, she hadn't decided on the foundation, and questions about whether she truly belonged in Nathan's world lingered. She squeezed his hand, knowing that while tonight was a victory, even bigger challenges lay ahead. Aisha Carter stood in her new apartment, a renovated loft in Dumbo, Brooklyn, with massive windows overlooking the Manhattan Bridge. It wasn't as extravagant as Nathan Sterling's penthouse, or as cramped as her old Harlem apartment. It was a compromise, spacious yet warm, with exposed brick walls and wooden floors they had chosen together. She set a sketch on the easel in the corner that now served as her art studio, feeling like a new chapter was beginning. 2 months had passed since she met Nathan's mother, Elizabeth, and accepted the role of managing the Sterling Community Renewal Fund. Today marked the day they officially moved in together. Nathan entered, carrying a cardboard box filled with books and trinkets. He said this corner suits the bookshelf, setting it down and giving her a soft smile. "You okay?" Aisha nodded, though a trace of unease lingered. Moving in with Nathan was a significant step, and although they had carefully chosen a space that belonged to both of them, she still worried about being absorbed into his world. "I'm okay," she replied, stepping closer. "I am just getting used to this. Being our home." He reached for her hand, pulling her into an embrace. "Ours, not mine. Together, Aisha." Their decision to live together had come after many long conversations. Aisha wanted to protect her independence, and Nathan respected that. They had picked this place precisely because it didn't carry the shadow of either of their pasts. Not his penthouse, not her flood-damaged apartment. Together, they'd selected the furniture, a balance between her artistic flair and his practical taste. The result was a space that reflected both a deep blue sofa, a reclaimed wood table, and Aisha's artwork framed along the walls. Aisha still found joy in working at Artist Haven. She loved advising artists, curating exhibitions, and learning from Judith, the gallery director. But the Sterling Community Renewal Fund was where she truly felt she made a difference. She'd already begun implementing housing assistance programs for disaster-displaced families and scholarship projects for vocational training. Every day, she thought she was giving back to the community that raised her. Still, the role came with pressure, side glances from fund employees, and whispers that she only got the position because of Nathan. Nathan, meanwhile, had officially stepped down as CEO of Sterling Enterprises, keeping only a seat on the board. He spent most of his time at the fund, working alongside Aisha to bring her visions to life. The transition wasn't smooth. Board members were still displeased, and tabloids continued digging into the CEO and the cleaning lady saga. A recent article called Aisha an inspiring figure behind the fund, but also insinuated that she benefited from her relationship with Nathan. Each time she read those lines, heat rushed to her cheeks, but she was learning to ignore it, focusing on her work and her art instead. While they were unpacking boxes one afternoon, Keisha dropped by with a cheap bottle of wine and her usual bright smile. "Nice place," she exclaimed, looking around. "But I bet you miss my legendary couch." Aisha laughed, hugging her. "That couch was iconic, but I'm okay with this upgrade." She led Keisha through the apartment, showing her the corner studio where she worked on a new painting, a vibrant Harlem street scene. "I'm preparing for my first exhibition at Artist Haven," she said, pride in her voice. Keisha raised an eyebrow. "An exhibition? Girl, you're flying. But seriously, are you okay? Living with Mr. Billionaire, working at his fund, dealing with all that tabloid garbage?" Aisha sighed, settling onto the couch beside Nathan, who was uncorking the wine. "Most days, yeah. But sometimes, it feels like the world is waiting for me to fail to prove I don't belong here." Nathan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let them think what they want, Aisha. You're doing real work, giving families homes, getting kids into schools. That's what matters." Keisha nodded. "He's right. But Aisha, you've got to stay grounded. Don't let his world swallow you." The words struck a chord. Aisha glanced at Nathan and saw the sincerity in his eyes. However, she also knew his world, with its charity galas, boardroom politics, and silent judgments, could never fully be hers. "I'm trying," she said quietly. "The gallery, the fund, my art, they keep me tethered." Nathan laced his fingers through hers. "And I'm here to ensure you never have to give up any part of yourself." That night, after Keisha left, Aisha and Nathan sat on the couch, the city lights flickering through the windows. She leaned into him, comforted by his warmth. "Do you ever regret stepping down as CEO?" she asked. He thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No. I built Sterling Enterprises to prove something, to my father and the world. But now I want to make something else. With you. A life, not just an empire." Aisha smiled, though a small part of her still held worry. The press, the whispers, the weight of her new responsibilities. They reminded her that this journey wouldn't be easy. But when she looked into Nathan's eyes, she saw someone who didn't just love her, but someone who was changing for her. And for the first time, she began to believe they could truly build a shared world where both could remain entirely themselves. Aisha Carter stood in the corner of the studio in their Dumbo loft, sunlight streaming through the tall windows and casting a glow over the painting she had just finished. A vibrant Harlem street scene where children played between old brick buildings. The bold colors reflected resilience and hope. This piece would be the centerpiece of her first exhibition at Artist Haven, now only 2 days away. She set her brushes down, feeling both excited and anxious. It had been 6 months since she moved in with Nathan Sterling, and her life had transformed in ways she never imagined. But with that success came pressure that sometimes felt suffocating. At the office of the Sterling Community Restoration Fund, Aisha had proven her worth. She had launched a temporary housing initiative, helping more than 50 Harlem and the Bronx families find shelter after a major storm. The vocational scholarship program she started had begun bearing fruit, with early recipients finishing training and securing stable jobs. The fund's success drew media attention, not all of it kind. Some articles praised her fresh vision, while others still insinuated that she was Nathan's protege, a suggestion that made her jaw clench every time she read it. Now an advisor on the Sterling Enterprises board, Nathan spent most of his time supporting Aisha at the fund. He handled legal and financial matters, allowing her to focus on the community programs. Their partnership was a delicate balance. He respected her leadership, but she still felt the stares from some employees who quietly questioned if she truly deserved her role. "They'll always talk," Nathan said once when she expressed her frustration. but you're changing lives. That's what matters. That afternoon, Aisha arrived at Artist Haven to prepare for the exhibition. Judith, the gallery manager, was arranging paintings along the walls. Judith said, "You've done well, Aisha," nodding toward a sketch of a woman standing alone in a storm. "These works have a soul. They tell your story, but also the story of so many others." Aisha smiled, pride tinged with nervousness. "I'm just afraid no one will show up. Or worse, they'll come to gossip about me and Nathan." Judith placed a hand on her shoulder. "They'll come for your art. And if they go out of curiosity about Nathan Sterling, so be it. Your work will make sure they leave talking about you, not him." Judith's words restored Aisha's confidence. Back at the loft, Nathan was cooking a simple dinner. Pasta, his signature dish that he proudly claimed was impossible to mess up. They ate on the couch, talking about the exhibition. "Are you nervous?" he asked, pouring them more wine. "Significantly," she admitted. "It's the first time my work has been shown publicly. If people hate it, I'm not sure I'll recover." He took her hand. "They'll love it, like I do. But even if they don't, you're an artist. No one can take that away from you." She looked at him, feeling the honesty in his words. Their relationship had deepened over the past months, built on passion, support, and mutual understanding. Yet the pressure of the outside world was always present. A week ago, a social media post had branded her a gold digger, followed by cruel comments. She had learned to ignore them, but each one left a small cut. On opening night, Artist Haven was more crowded than Aisha had expected. Art lovers, critics, and a few reporters filled the space, raising her anxiety. Nathan stood beside her, not in front, not overshadowing, but quietly supportive. When a critic praised her central piece as a vivid and honest work, pride welled in her chest. But the moment was interrupted by a reporter's fake smile. "Carter, do you think your success has anything to do with your relationship with Nathan Sterling?" Aisha tightened her grip on her wine glass, but kept her tone calm. "My paintings are here because I created them, not because of anyone else. If you want to know about Nathan, ask him about our foundation." The reporter backed off, and Nathan leaned in to whisper, "You handled that perfectly." But she knew it wouldn't be the last time. After the event, Aisha received an invitation from another gallery to showcase her work, proof that her talent was seen independently from Nathan. Back home, she sat in her studio, looking at her newest painting, a couple holding hands under city lights. She thought of Nathan, of how he had stepped back so she could shine. But she also thought of the challenges they still faced. "You okay?" he asked, walking in with 2 mugs of coffee. "I'm trying," she said with a smile. "The show was a dream come true. But sometimes I feel like I have to prove myself twice, as an artist and myself." He sat beside her, eyes serious. "You don't need to prove anything to me. But if you ever need me behind or beside you, just the word." She reached for his hand, feeling a small weight lift. "Thank you, Nathan, for letting me be me." The Dumbo loft glowed with warm lights, the soft scent of burning wood from the fireplace drifting through the air. Aisha Carter stood in her small studio, pencil in hand, completing the final lines on a special portrait. The painting depicted Nathan Sterling, not the powerful CEO the world knew, but the man she loved. Gentle eyes, a faint mischievous smile, and a rare kind of peace. She had worked on it secretly for weeks, preparing it as a gift to mark 1 year since the stormy night that had brought them together. New York shimmered in the autumn sunset outside the window, buildings flickering like golden flames. Aisha and Nathan had journeyed through so much: chance encounters, social prejudices, and the building of a shared life. The Sterling Community Restoration Fund had become a remarkable success, providing housing to hundreds of families and vocational scholarships to dozens. Her first exhibition at Artist Haven had attracted attention, earning her an invitation to show at a larger Manhattan gallery. But what she was most proud of wasn't the public achievements. It was how she and Nathan had learned to stand side by side, not as two people from different worlds, but as equals. Nathan entered the studio, holding 2 cups of hot tea. "Working late again?" he asked, setting a cup down and glancing at the canvas. "You're hiding something, aren't you?" Aisha laughed, quickly covering the painting with a cloth. "No peeking. It's a surprise." He raised an eyebrow but didn't push. "All right. I'll be patient. But I have a surprise for you too." He pulled a small brown-wrapped box from his jacket and handed it to her. "Open it." Inside was a set of professional paintbrushes that she had dreamed of but never dared to buy. Nestled inside was a handwritten card. "For the woman who taught me to see beauty in everything. Always yours, Nathan." She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "Nathan, this is too much." "It's never too much," he said, pulling her into his arms. "You deserve all of it." She gently stepped back and handed him the painting from the easel. "Your turn." His expression shifted from surprise to emotion when he pulled off the cloth. He touched the frame as if to hold on to the image she'd captured. "Is this me?" he asked, voice rough. "This is you," Aisha said, standing beside him. "The man I see every day. Strong but also gentle. Not the CEO. Not Sterling Enterprises. Just Nathan." He set the painting down and held her tightly. "You see me more clearly than anyone ever has, Aisha. That stormy night. It was the luckiest moment of my life." They sat on the couch, leaning into each other, looking out over the city skyline. Aisha thought back on their journey, from the night she first stepped into his penthouse, fearful yet filled with longing, to the days she fought to keep her identity intact. She remembered the cruel headlines, the skeptical glances from the foundation staff, and the unexpected acceptance from Elizabeth, Nathan's mother. Every challenge had made her stronger, and Nathan had never asked her to change, only helped her shine. Keisha, her best friend, had visited them the week before, bringing wine and jokes. "You did it, Aisha," she had said as they sat on the balcony. "You built a life where you're fully you, not just someone in his shadow." Her words had been a confirmation. Aisha hadn't lost herself. Even as she stepped into Nathan's world, she remained her own. Nathan, meanwhile, had found peace he never knew he was missing. Leaving the CEO position had been difficult, but it gave him space to focus on the foundation and Aisha. There were still murmurs from board members accusing him of going soft for love, but he didn't care. "I built an empire," he once told Aisha. "Now, I want to make a life." She turned to him, her hand on his cheek. "Did you ever think we'd come this far?" she asked. "No," he admitted with a smile. "But I knew from the start. You were different. You made me want to be better." She kissed him, a slow, lingering kiss, as if to imprint the moment. When they pulled apart, she rested her head on his shoulder, eyes on the glowing city. "We've been through so much. Media, judgment, even our fears. What do you think comes next?" "Next," he said, intertwining their fingers. "We keep building. The foundation, your art, our life. Together." Aisha nodded, feeling like all the puzzle pieces had finally clicked into place. She would keep painting, fighting for her community, and loving Nathan, not for who he was to the world, but for who he was to her. They stood and stepped out onto the balcony, gazing down at New York, a city that had once kept them apart, but now was where they had found each other. Their love, forged in adversity, proved that no barrier is insurmountable when two people are willing to meet each other halfway.